The morning my daughter got married, she looked directly at me and said, "Please use the service elevator. If anyone asks, tell them you're with housekeeping." She said it while wearing the wedding dress I had spent 18 months helping her pay for. For a few seconds, I thought I had misunderstood, not because the words were unclear, because mothers become very talented at translating cruelty into something easier to survive. Maybe she meant the main elevator was crowded. Maybe she was worried about the photographers. Maybe there was some last-minute problem with seating. Then Sophie looked down at my uniform, gray housekeeping dress, white name tag, black shoes with rubber soles, and she whispered, "Mom, please, just today." Behind her, 6 bridesmaids moved around the hotel suite carrying flowers, curling irons, garment bags, champagne, and opinions. None of them knew who I was. One of them smiled at me and said, "Could we get 2 more towels?" I looked at my daughter. She looked away. That was the moment I understood. Sophie had not asked me to enter through the service door because she was embarrassed that I worked at the hotel. She had asked because everyone inside that room believed her mother was dead, and she planned to keep it that way until after she became someone else's wife. My name is Angela Mercer. I was 48 years old when my only daughter erased me from her wedding. For 23 years, I thought the hardest thing I would ever do was raise her alone. I was wrong. The hardest thing was standing 3 feet away from her on the happiest morning of her life and realizing she had built that happiness on the idea that I no longer existed. 3 days earlier, Sophie came to my apartment carrying lemon cake. That should have warned me. My daughter only brought dessert when she was about to ask for something expensive or painful. She arrived at 7:30 wearing cream trousers and a blue sweater, her hair pulled into the polished knot she had started wearing after she got engaged. Before Daniel, she wore her hair loose. After Daniel, everything about her looked prepared for a photograph. I did not dislike Daniel. That matters. It would make this easier if I could tell you he was arrogant or cruel. He was not. Daniel Whitmore was 31, soft-spoken, thoughtful, and almost painfully polite. The first time I met him, he brought me a small potted rosemary plant because Sophie told him I liked to cook. I did not have the heart to tell him that after cleaning hotel rooms all day, I mostly ate toast over the sink. He remembered my birthday. He called me Ms. Mercer until I told him to stop, and whenever Sophie became impatient with me, Daniel had a way of touching her wrist and saying, "Let her finish." I liked him for that. Maybe too much. Maybe liking him made me ignore the strange things. The fact that I had never met his parents. The fact that Sophie always arranged dinners at restaurants far from the Whitmore's neighborhood. The fact that whenever Daniel suggested family holidays, Sophie found an excuse for me to be working. At first, I believed she was protecting me. The Whitmores were wealthy. Not loud wealthy. Quiet wealthy. The kind where nobody mentioned money because every room already explained it. Daniel's father, Richard, ran Whitmore Recovery Group, a network of private rehabilitation hospitals across the Midwest. His mother sat on 2 museum boards. His grandmother, Eleanor Whitmore, had spent 50 years appearing in newspaper photographs while standing beside governors, doctors, donors, and people who wanted their names engraved on buildings. Sophie worked in fundraising for a children's arts nonprofit. She met Daniel at a charity dinner. 6 months later, they were engaged. A year after that, my daughter brought lemon cake to my apartment and told me I could not attend her wedding. She placed the white bakery box on my kitchen table. "I know you like this kind. You hate lemon. It's not for me." I looked at her. She was nervous. Not ordinary nervous. Her left thumb kept rubbing the side of her engagement ring. She only did that when she was hiding something. I poured coffee. She did not touch hers. Finally, she said, "Mom, I need to talk to you about Saturday. I already picked up my dress. Her face changed, only slightly. But mothers notice small things. I know. It's navy, nothing dramatic. You told me not to wear anything that might look white in pictures. I remember. I even found shoes that don't make me walk like I'm crossing ice. She smiled. Then the smile disappeared. Mom, there are tones children use when they become adults. Tones they think protect you from what comes next. I need you not to come. The refrigerator hummed. A bus passed outside. Somewhere upstairs, a child dropped something heavy and started crying. I stared at Sophie. Not come where? She closed her eyes. To the wedding. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because there are sentences so cruel that your body rejects them before your mind can accept them. What happened? Nothing happened. Did Daniel say something? No. His parents? No. Then why? She looked toward the kitchen window. My apartment overlooked the rear parking lot of a tire shop. There was nothing beautiful out there, nothing worth avoiding my eyes for. His family has expectations. I waited. She continued. They're traditional. What does that mean? It means everything matters to them. Family history, reputation, stability. And I'm unstable? That isn't what I said. You didn't have to. She stood, then sat again. Mom, please don't make me explain this badly. Try explaining it honestly. Her eyes filled. That almost broke me. Not because I felt sorry for her, because I recognized those tears. She cried the same way at 9 when she lied about losing her library book. At 16 when she blamed another girl for a party she had organized. At 22 when she accepted a graduate program across the country and told me only after signing the lease. Sophie cried when guilt threatened the future she wanted. I told them you died. I heard every word. I understood every word. And still I asked, what? She pressed both hands together. When Daniel and I first met, he asked about my family. So you told him I was dead? It wasn't like that. How exactly is that not like that? I said I was raised mostly by relatives. You weren't. I know. You lived with me until you were 18. I know. I worked nights because you hated being alone after school. I know. I missed 2 months of rent so you could go to Washington with your debate team. Mom. And apparently I died somewhere between paying your college application fees and meeting your fiancé. I panicked. For 2 years, she flinched. Good. I wanted her to. Then I hated myself for wanting it. Sophie stood again. She walked to my sink. She looked at the plate drying beside it. 1 chipped mug, 2 forks. The life I had built after she left looked very small from across the room. My first dinner with the Whitmores was awful, she said. You never told me. I couldn't. What happened? Richard asked what Dad did. I said nothing. Sophie's father, Paul, left before she was born. That was the simple version. The version I gave teachers, neighbors, doctors, and Sophie herself. He left. Men did that. People understood. The truth was more complicated. But I had spent 23 years making sure my daughter never carried it. What did you tell them? I asked. That I never knew him. That part is true. Then Evelyn asked about you. Daniel's mother. Yes. What did you say? Sophie stared at the sink. At first I told her you worked in hospitality. I almost smiled. Hospitality. Such a clean word. It sounded like I managed luxury events. It sounded better than scraping lipstick from coffee cups and changing sheets after strangers checked out. What did she say? She asked where. And? I told her you worked at the Grand Regent. I had worked at the Grand Regent Hotel in Chicago for 17 years, the same hotel where Sophie planned to marry Daniel. The same hotel where the Whitmore family hosted annual fundraising dinners. The same hotel where I had cleaned rooms while my daughter attended charity events downstairs, pretending I did not exist. Then Richard said something, Sophie continued. What? He joked that the Whitmores always had complicated history with hotel employees. My fingers tightened around my coffee. What did he mean? I don't know. You never asked? No, everybody got quiet. That interested me. More than it should have. Sophie continued. Eleanor changed the subject. His grandmother? Yes. And then? Evelyn asked whether you would attend the engagement dinner. And you killed me. I said you had passed away when I was a teenager. She said it quickly, like speed-reduced damage. I walked to the window. Outside, 2 mechanics rolled tires across wet pavement. My reflection looked tired, not devastated, just tired. Why a teenager? What? Why did I die when you were a teenager? I don't know. You must have chosen it for a reason. She looked ashamed. I said my aunt helped raise me after. Which aunt? Aunt Rosa. My sister Rosa lived in Phoenix and had seen Sophie 6 times in her entire life. She knows. No. Daniel believes Rosa raised you? Yes. And his family? Yes. Does Rosa know she raised you? Mom, stop. No, I am trying to understand my own death. She covered her face. I made one bad decision. You made it every day for 2 years. That isn't fair. I turned. Fair? Her eyes hardened. There it was, the piece of my daughter that had always frightened me. Not anger, certainty. Sophie could turn any argument into a courtroom where she was both attorney and judge. You don't know what it was like, she said. What was like? Walking into their world. I know more about walking into rooms where people think I don't belong than you will ever understand. You always do that. Do what? Make everything about what you sacrificed. The sentence landed between us. Neither of us moved. Then she said the thing I had spent years pretending not to hear. Every good thing in my life becomes another example of what you gave up. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. She continued. You paid for debate camp. I did. You remind me every time I mention college. I do not. You remind me without saying it. That doesn't make sense. It does to me. She wiped under her eyes. You look at everything I have like it belongs partly to you because you suffered for it. My face burned. That is not true. Isn't it? No. You told my roommate at graduation that you skipped dental work to pay my tuition. Because I did. You told Daniel that you worked double shifts while I studied. Because I did. You told the florist that my wedding dress cost more than you earned in 4 months. It does. She laughed bitterly. Exactly. I stared at her. For years, I believed sacrifice was proof of love. I never asked whether hearing about it felt like love. Maybe because nobody celebrated what I gave up except me. Maybe I kept naming the cost because I was afraid that if I stopped, the sacrifice would disappear. I never asked you to repay me, I said. You didn't have to. She looked at the lemon cake. You made gratitude feel like rent. That hurt more than the wedding, because some accusations are painful because they are cruel. Others hurt because part of you recognizes them. Still, recognition does not cancel betrayal. You told your fiancé I was dead. Yes. You let me help pay for a wedding where I don't exist. Her face folded. I plan to tell Daniel. When? After. After what? The wedding. I laughed again. You plan to begin your marriage by correcting the identity of the dead woman who raised you? I know how it sounds. You know how it is. She stepped closer. Mom, I love him. Then tell him the truth. I will. Today. I can't. Why? Because his family already thinks I hide things. What else did you hide? She froze. There it was. Another door. Another room I had not entered. What else? I repeated. Nothing. Sophie, it isn't important. What did you do? I didn't do anything. Then why are you scared? She looked away. I knew my daughter. Fear made her shoulders narrow. Guilt made her touch her ring. She was doing both. Finally, she whispered. The Whitmore Foundation did a background review before Daniel proposed. A background review? It's normal for them. No, it is normal for people who believe money makes suspicion respectable. They found old records connected to you. My stomach tightened. What records? I don't know exactly. What did they say? Nothing. Daniel said the report was incomplete. And you told him I was dead. I had already told him. What did the report find? She shook her head. Something about a hospital in 2003. The room changed, not visibly, but suddenly the coffee smelled bitter. The refrigerator sounded too loud, and I was 25 again, standing under fluorescent lights, holding a newborn, listening to a man say, "You understand what this could do to everyone involved." Sophie watched me. What happened in 2003? Nothing. The lie came too fast. Her eyes narrowed. Mom. I said nothing. You always do that. Do what? Demand honesty while keeping half your life locked. I walked past her. I have work. Saturday. I heard you. You won't come? I stopped. Every part of me wanted to say I would. I wanted to put on my navy dress, walk into the ballroom, sit in the front row, stand when my daughter entered, make every lie collapse simply by existing. But then I looked at Sophie. She was not cruel in that moment. She was terrified, and fear had always been the one thing I could not refuse. You want me to stay home? She nodded. Tears ran down her face. Please. I waited. Then I asked, Does Daniel love you? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Then you should trust him with the truth. I will. When? After the wedding. That is cowardly. I know. And selfish. I know. And you are asking me to disappear so you do not have to feel the consequences. She cried harder. I know. I looked at my daughter, the baby I carried through snow because the bus broke down, the child who slept with one hand wrapped around my finger, the teenager who once wrote an essay saying I was the strongest person she knew, and the woman who had told people I was dead. All right, I said. Her head lifted. I won't come. Relief appeared before guilt, only for a second, but I saw it. That second stayed with me longer than anything else. She hugged me. I did not hug her back. Then she left the lemon cake on my table and walked out. I threw it away unopened. The next day, my manager called. Angela, I need a favor. No, you don't know the favor. It's wedding week. We're short. We're always short. 3 people called out. 3 people always call out. He sighed. The Whitmore wedding has taken over 2 floors. My hand tightened around the phone. I requested Saturday off 6 months ago. You still have it. Then what do you need? Friday evening, bridal floor support. No. Double rate. No. Angela. I said no. Then he said, Maribel's son is in the emergency room. I closed my eyes. Maribel had covered for me during Sophie's high school graduation. She cleaned 14 rooms alone so I could watch my daughter receive an academic medal. What happened? Appendix. Is he all right? I think so. I stared at the navy dress hanging from my closet door. I had not put it away. I'll take Friday. Thank you. Not Saturday. Not Saturday. Friday night. The hotel looked like a flower shop had exploded. White roses covered the lobby. Gold letters stood beside the ballroom doors. Sophie and Daniel. I stopped when I saw them. My daughter's name. Bright, elegant, real. Mine nowhere. I changed into my uniform downstairs. Then I took the service elevator to the 21st floor. For 3 hours, I delivered towels, removed trays, replaced toiletries, steamed dresses, cleaned a spilled bottle of foundation from a bathroom counter, and listened to strangers celebrate my daughter. The bridesmaids were kind. That made it worse. One of them said, "Sophie is incredible. She basically raised herself." I kept folding towels. Another said, "She lost her mom young." My hand stopped. "Did she?" I asked. The woman nodded. "Terrible, right? But look at her now." I looked toward the bedroom. Sophie stood in front of a mirror wearing silk pajamas. Her friends surrounded her. She looked happy. Then she saw me. Everything in her face disappeared. She crossed the room quickly. "What are you doing here?" "I work here. You're off. Tomorrow." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I assumed my employment survived my death." Her eyes flashed. "Not here. Relax. I'm invisible." "Mom, you made sure of that." One bridesmaid called, "Sophie, your mother-in-law is coming up." Sophie grabbed my wrist. "You need to go." I looked at her hand. She released me. "I'm leaving. Use the service elevator." I stared at her. Then I walked out. The hallway was empty. Almost. At the far end stood an older woman in a silver suit. Eleanor Whitmore. I recognized her from photographs. White hair, straight posture, a cane with a dark wooden handle. She looked at me, then at my name tag. Her face changed. "Angela?" I stopped. Nobody from that life had said my name like that in 23 years. I considered pretending. Then she stepped closer. "Angela Mercer?" "Yes." Her hand tightened around the cane. "My God." I said nothing. She studied my face. "You work here?" "Yes." "All this time?" 17 years. She looked toward the bridal suite. "Does Sophie know?" My stomach dropped. "You know Sophie?" Her eyes moved back to mine. "I know who she is." The corridor felt narrow. "How?" She took one slow breath. Then she said, "Because I knew the night she was born. I should have walked away. Instead, I stood there. 23 years disappeared. I remembered snow melting against hospital windows. I remembered Sophie's tiny mouth. I remembered Eleanor sitting in a waiting room wearing a dark green coat. I remembered money offered, papers signed, promises made, and one sentence: "No one ever needs to know." "What are you doing here?" Eleanor asked. "My job." "I mean at the wedding." "I'm not attending." She looked confused. "You are the bride's mother." "Apparently not." Then the bridal suite door opened. Sophie stepped out. Behind her came Daniel. He smiled when he saw me. "Angela." His smile was warm, normal. Then he noticed his grandmother. "You two know each other?" Nobody answered. Sophie went pale. Eleanor looked between us. Then she asked, "Daniel, what has Sophie told you about her mother?" My daughter stopped breathing. Daniel frowned. "She died when Sophie was 15. The hallway went silent. Eleanor turned toward me. She did not look angry. She looked old, older than she had seconds earlier. "Angela, don't. Does he know?" "No." "Know what?" Daniel asked. Sophie moved toward him. "Daniel, I can explain." He looked at me, then at her. "Why did you call your mother Angela?" Nobody spoke. Daniel's expression changed slowly. Not rage, confusion. The kind that begins quietly because the truth is too large to enter all at once. He looked at my uniform, then my face, then Sophie. "That's your mother," Sophie whispered. "Yes." The word barely existed. Daniel stepped back. You told me she was dead. I was going to tell you. When? After the wedding. His mouth opened, closed. Eleanor sat on a hallway bench. Her hand shook. Then she looked at Sophie. You do not know what your mother did. Sophie's eyes sharpened. What? I said. No. Eleanor ignored me. You told this family she was dead? Please stop. She protected us. Eleanor. She protected you. Sophie looked at me. What is she talking about? The service elevator opened. 2 employees stepped out carrying flowers. All of us went silent. They passed. The doors closed. Then Daniel said, I think we need to go somewhere private. We entered an unused conference room. No flowers, no champagne, just a long table and 12 empty chairs. I remained standing. Sophie sat beside Daniel. He moved his chair away, only slightly. She noticed. I did too. Eleanor placed both hands on her cane. Then she said, Daniel's grandfather had a son before he married me. Daniel frowned. What? His name was Thomas. I've never heard of him. That was intentional. I closed my eyes. The past had survived. It had simply waited for a wedding. Eleanor continued. Thomas struggled for years. Addiction, debt, arrests. Daniel stared. My father had a brother? Yes. What happened to him? He died in 2004. Sophie looked at me. I said nothing. Eleanor continued. In 2003, Thomas met Angela. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. He did not meet me. Eleanor lowered her eyes. You are right, Sophie whispered. What does that mean? I looked at her. There are truths you hide to protect children. Then the child grows up, and the truth becomes a wall. Your father was Paul Mercer, I said. That's what you told me. Yes. Was that a lie? No. Then what does this have to do with Thomas? Paul worked at a private clinic, Eleanor spoke softly. A clinic connected to the Whitmore family. I sat down. My legs had become unreliable. Paul stole medication, I said. Sophie's face changed. What? He sold prescriptions, changed records, used patient names. Daniel looked sick. Our hospital? It was not yours then. Still. Yes. Sophie stared at me. You said Dad left. He did. Because of that? Partly. What is the other part? I looked at Eleanor. She nodded once. So I told my daughter the truth. When I was 8 months pregnant, Paul used my identity on financial documents. What documents? Payments. For what? To hide money he received. From Thomas? Yes. Sophie looked at Eleanor. What happened? Thomas overdosed, Eleanor said. Daniel stood. No. He survived. But? He was found with prescriptions connected to Whitmore facilities. I continued. The press found out. And Mom was involved? No, Eleanor said quickly. Then why were her records there? Because Paul used her. Sophie looked at me. Why didn't you tell me? You were a baby. Later. I wanted you to believe your father was weak, not dangerous. Dangerous? He threatened to take you. The room went quiet. He said if I spoke to investigators, he would tell them I helped. Did you? No. But they believed him? They might have. Eleanor said, the Whitmore family was facing public ruin. Hospitals, donors, patients, everything. Daniel stared at his grandmother. What did you do? She looked at me. We asked Angela to sign a confidentiality agreement. Sophie's face hardened. You paid her? Yes. How much? I answered. $40,000, Sophie laughed once. That's all? In 2003, it was enough to disappear. Disappear where? Here. Chicago? Yes. You left because of them. I left because Paul knew where I lived. Daniel looked at Eleanor. You silenced her. We protected several people. You protected the family. Yes. At least she was honest. Sophie turned to me. What did the agreement say? That I would not discuss Thomas, the clinic, the prescriptions, or the investigation. And Dad? Paul disappeared before charges were filed. Where? I don't know. That was true, at least mostly. I had received one letter 12 years earlier. No return address. 3 sentences. I'm sorry. I wasn't ready. Tell Sophie I thought about her. I burned it. Some truths deserve records. Others deserve fire. Sophie stood. So my entire childhood was shaped by this family. No. You moved because of them. Because of Paul. You worked in their hotel. They do not own this hotel. You cleaned rooms while they donated millions and called themselves generous. Sophie. And you never told me? No. Why? Because I wanted your life to be yours. She laughed. Mine? Her voice broke. You made every success about your sacrifice. There it was again, the wound beneath the wound. You told me how hard everything was. Every year, every bill, every shift. But you never told me why. I could not. You chose not to. Yes. You made me feel guilty for a life I didn't understand. I know. The words surprised both of us. Sophie stopped. I continued. You were right. She stared. I kept score. Mom. I told myself I was teaching gratitude. My throat tightened. But sometimes I was making sure you knew what you cost me. Her face changed. I'd never admitted that. Not to myself. Not to anyone. I loved you, I said. I know. No, listen. She sat. I loved you, but I was angry. Her eyes filled. Not at you. Sometimes at you. The truth hurt on the way out. When you left for college, I was proud and jealous. You were jealous of me? Yes. Why? Because you got to leave without being afraid. Nobody spoke. I wanted you to have everything. Then when you did, part of me wanted you to turn around and keep thanking me. Sophie cried silently. I am sorry. She covered her mouth. Daniel looked away. Maybe because the moment felt private. Maybe because he no longer knew where he belonged. Then Sophie asked, Why did you agree not to come? I thought about it. Because sacrifice is the only language I trust. Her eyes closed. And because if I stayed away, I could keep being the injured one. That was harder to admit. You lied. Yes. You erased me. Yes. But I was ready to let you. She shook her head. No. I was. Why? Because then you would owe me forever. The room became painfully quiet. Eleanor stood. I think this family has hidden enough truth for one morning. She looked at Daniel. You must decide what you can forgive. Then at Sophie. And what you can repair. Then at me. And Angela, I owe you an apology that money never covered. I said, you owe me nothing. That is not true. It is. You protected our name. No. I looked at Sophie. I protected my daughter. Then I added, and I protected myself from admitting I had loved the wrong man. A knock came at the door. Daniel's father entered. Richard Whitmore. He stopped when he saw me. His face lost color. Angela. Sophie laughed bitterly. Apparently everyone knows my mother except me. Richard closed the door. What happened? Eleanor said. The truth became tired of waiting. He looked at Daniel, then Sophie, then me. I am sorry. Do not apologize because you are uncomfortable. His jaw tightened. You were treated unfairly. Yes. We believed the agreement protected everyone. It protected the people who could afford lawyers. He accepted that. Then Sophie asked, Did you know who I was? Richard looked at her. Yes. She stood. What? Not at first. When? After the background review. Why didn't you say anything? Because your mother's agreement remained confidential. So you knew she was alive? Yes. And you let me lie. I thought Daniel knew. Daniel stared. You thought I knew my fiancé's mother was alive while she told everyone she was dead? Richard looked ashamed. I assumed there were private reasons. Private? You seemed happy. Daniel laughed without humor. That is not an explanation. No. Eleanor looked at Richard. You were protecting the family again. Yes. At least honesty had become contagious. Then Richard turned to Sophie. I did question your history. She folded her arms. Why? Because people who hide one thing may hide others. She went still. Daniel noticed. What else? Sophie said nothing. I felt the room shift again. Daniel looked at her. Sophie, it isn't what you think. What is it? She sat. Then she removed her engagement ring. Not dramatically. She simply twisted it once and placed it on the table. I changed part of my employment history. Daniel stared. What part? My first fundraising job. You worked at Langford Arts. No. What? I applied 3 times. You told me you worked there for 2 years. I volunteered. For 2 years? 8 months? Then where did you work? She looked at me. I already knew. Not because she told me, because I remembered. Northside Gaming, I said. She closed her eyes. Daniel looked confused. What is that? A casino. You worked in a casino? Event service. Why hide that? Because your mother asked how I entered nonprofit work. And? I said Langford. Why? Because I felt small. The room softened. Not because the lie became acceptable, because the motive was painfully ordinary. I spent my whole life trying not to look like where I came from, Sophie said. She looked at me. And every time Mom told stories about working 2 jobs or missing rent, I felt guilty. My chest hurt, so I made everything cleaner. Cleaner? Daniel asked. My childhood. My resume. My family. She looked at me. My mother. Nobody moved. Then she whispered, I thought if I became impressive enough, nobody could send me back. Back where? I asked. To being the girl people felt sorry for. I sat beside her, not touching, just near. I never felt sorry for you. You made me feel expensive. That sentence broke something in me, because I understood. Every sacrifice I named had become a price tag around her neck. I am sorry, I said. She nodded. But forgiveness did not appear. That is not how real apologies work. Daniel stood by the window. The wedding was scheduled in 4 hours. Downstairs, 200 guests expected champagne, music, flowers, vows, photographs. Upstairs, the bride had lied about her mother. The groom's family had hidden a scandal. The mother had turned pain into debt, and somehow everyone still expected a wedding. Daniel finally turned. I need time. Sophie nodded. Of course. Alone. Her face collapsed. Still, she nodded. He picked up the ring. Then he left. Sophie stared at the closed door. You ruined it. The words were quiet. I stood. Yes. She looked at me. I told you not to come. I did not come. You were here. I work here. You could have left. Yes. You wanted them to find out. No. Part of you did. I did not answer, because part of me had. Not this way. But yes. Some hidden part wanted the truth to walk into the room and punish her. You wanted to be right, she said. I wanted to be seen. Same thing. No. It feels the same. Then she asked, Are you happy now? No. Good. She walked out. I remained in the conference room. Eleanor stood beside me. You should go after her. No. She is hurting. So am I. She is your daughter. And I am her mother. Eleanor nodded. That is the problem, isn't it? What? Mothers are expected to become furniture, useful, reliable, invisible. I looked at her. Did you? No. She almost smiled. I made everyone else disappear. At least she knew herself. I returned to work. That surprised people. It surprised me. I cleaned 2 checkout rooms, replaced coffee pods, removed rose petals from a bathtub. At noon, my manager found me folding sheets. Angela, what are you doing? My job. The bride is asking for you. I'm busy. She said it is urgent. So are fitted sheets. He stared. Are you related to the bride? I folded another sheet. Yes. His mouth opened, then closed. Go upstairs. I changed out of my uniform, not into the navy dress. I could not wear it. Instead, I wore black trousers and a plain blouse from my locker. When I entered the bridal suite, Sophie sat alone. No bridesmaids, no music, no champagne. Her dress hung beside the window. You asked for me, she nodded. Daniel came back. And? He still wants to get married. I exhaled. Good. He wants us to tell the truth first. To everyone? To his parents, the wedding party. That is enough. He said no more lies. Reasonable. He also wants you there. I looked at her. You do not. She said nothing. I won't come. Her eyes filled. I don't know what I want. That is honest. I'm angry. You should be. I'm ashamed. You should be. She laughed through tears. You are terrible at comfort. I had little practice receiving it. That sounds like another sacrifice. I stopped, then nodded. You are right. She looked surprised. I'm trying. Silence. Then she asked, did you ever want another life? Yes. Without me? I thought carefully. Yes. She flinched. I continued. And I wanted you in it. She looked at me. Both can be true. I thought mothers weren't supposed to say that. Mothers lie. I noticed. Daughters too. She looked down. Daniel knows everything now. Everything? Everything I remember lying about. That sounds dangerous. It was a long list. Good. She almost smiled. Then she asked, will you help me get dressed? I looked at the wedding gown. 18 months of payments. White silk. Tiny covered buttons. A future I had nearly destroyed. Yes. The bridesmaids returned later. Sophie introduced me, not as Angela, not as hotel staff. My mother. Nobody reacted badly. That almost hurt. For 2 years, my daughter feared a humiliation that did not happen. One bridesmaid hugged me. Another apologized for asking about towels. I told her towels were not an insult. Erasure was. She cried. I did not comfort her. There are limits. At 3:30, Daniel entered. He looked tired, older. He asked to speak with me. We stood near the window. I love her, he said. I know, but I don't trust her right now. That makes sense. She is afraid I will leave. Will you? I don't know. I appreciated the answer. Why marry today? He looked toward Sophie. Because I don't believe trust always arrives before commitment. That sounds risky. It is. Marriage usually is. He smiled slightly. Then he said, I want you at the ceremony. She does not. She wants you. She also wants not to need you. I understood that. Where would I sit? Front row. No. Why? Because everyone will ask questions. We're telling them. Not the whole wedding. Why protect the lie? Because truth does not need an audience to be real. He studied me. You've spent your life hiding. Yes. Maybe that is why Sophie learned to. That hurt. He apologized immediately. No. I shook my head. You may be right. Then he said, my grandmother wants to speak publicly. Absolutely not. She believes your story should be acknowledged. My story is not a wedding toast. She says the family owes you. The family owes me privacy. He nodded. I'll tell her. Before the ceremony, Sophie found me near the ballroom doors. Guests filled the hall. Music played. She wore her dress. She looked beautiful, not because of the makeup, because she looked frightened and decided to walk forward anyway. Mom. Yes. I changed the program. She handed me one. Under Family of the Bride, it said, Angela Mercer, Mother of the Bride. I touched the words. 23 years, reduced to one line. Still, I cried. Don't, she whispered. Why? You'll make me cry. You told everyone I was dead. Let me enjoy this. She laughed, then cried. Then I did something I had not done enough. I apologized without explaining. I am sorry I made you carry the price of raising you. She closed her eyes. I am sorry I killed you. That sounds dramatic. It was. Yes. Then she asked, will you walk me down the aisle? I froze. What? Daniel asked. No. Why? Because you planned to walk alone. I planned a lot of things badly. What about your father? I don't have one. You do. No. She looked at me. I have history. Then she held out her arm. I want my mother. People think forgiveness feels warm. Sometimes it feels terrifying, because anger protects you. Love asks you to risk being hurt again. I took her arm. The doors opened. 200 people stood. Some recognized my uniform face. Some knew nothing. Some whispered. I kept walking. Halfway down the aisle, Sophie squeezed my hand. Mom. Yes? Thank you. I almost said, for what? I almost listed everything. The rent, the shifts, the tuition, the dress, the years. Instead, I said, you're welcome. Nothing else. At the altar, Daniel took her hand. He looked at me. Thank you for bringing her. I answered. She brought herself. Then I sat in the front row. Eleanor sat beside me. During the vows, Sophie's voice shook. Daniel's did too. They did not promise perfect honesty. That would have been dishonest. They promised to stop protecting each other from necessary truth. At the reception, Richard approached. He offered to create a scholarship in my name. I refused. He offered compensation. I refused that too. Then Eleanor asked, what do you want? Nobody had asked me that in years. I thought about it. I want the Whitmore family records corrected. Richard frowned. How? The old internal report described me as a cooperating witness connected to financial misconduct. Yes, I was a victim. He nodded. We can amend it. And I want a copy. You'll have it. That was all. Not money, not revenge. My name. Clean. Mine. Later, Sophie danced with Daniel. I watched from a table near the kitchen. Not hidden, not central. Comfortable. A woman beside me asked how I knew the bride. I said, I'm her mother. The words felt unfamiliar, then natural. At 10:30, Sophie found me near the coat check. You're leaving? Yes. Already? I worked yesterday. She smiled, then became serious. Mom. Yes? I don't know how to fix us. You don't. She looked hurt. Not all at once, I added. Oh. We start smaller. How? Tell the truth. That sounds exhausting. It is, she laughed, then asked, will you come for dinner after the honeymoon? Yes. I mean without reminding me how much the groceries cost. I almost defended myself, then stopped. I'll try. And I'll stop pretending I raised myself. That would be nice. We hugged. It was not magical. It did not erase anything. I still remembered the service elevator. She still remembered every sacrifice I placed on her shoulders. Love does not become healthy because people finally cry in expensive clothes. It becomes healthy through small corrections, repeated, uncomfortable, uncelebrated. 6 months later, Sophie and Daniel were still married, still learning. She told his family the rest of the truth about the casino, about the resume, about me. Some people judged her. Most did not. That surprised her. I stayed at the Grand Regent. People expected me to quit after the wedding. I did not. There was dignity in my work before wealthy people recognized me. There was dignity after. But I made one change. I stopped volunteering for every extra shift. I enrolled in a hotel management certification program. At 49. Not because the Whitmores helped. They offered. I said no. I paid for it myself. Slowly. Without telling Sophie what it cost. That was harder than expected. Sometimes I still wanted credit. Sometimes I wanted her to know I was tired. Sometimes I wanted to say, "Look what I did for you." Then I reminded myself, love is not invisible because it goes unannounced. Sophie changed too. She started calling without needing anything. She asked questions about my life before her. Real questions, not guilty ones. One evening she asked whether I regretted having her. Years earlier, I would have lied. I would have said never. Instead, I said, "Sometimes I regretted being alone." She nodded. "That's different." "Yes." Then she asked, "Did you ever regret me?" I thought. No. That answer was true. The next year, on her anniversary, she brought me lemon cake. I laughed when I opened the door. "What are you asking for?" "Nothing." "That's suspicious." She placed the box on my table, then handed me an envelope. Inside was a photograph from the wedding, Sophie and me, standing outside the bridal suite, her in white, me in black, both crying. On the back, she had written, "My mother did not die when I was 15, but I almost lost her when I forgot that sacrifice is not the same as permission." I read it twice. Then I turned it over. "You wrote too much. I learned from you." We ate cake, no debt, no apology, no list of what anything cost. Just two women trying to become family without turning love into evidence. And when she left, she hugged me at the door. Then she said, "Thank you for coming to my wedding." I looked at her. For a moment, I remembered the service elevator, the uniform, the lie, the front row, all of it. Then I answered, "Thank you for finally letting me arrive."